So today we're putting in a new VHF radio. We've got this old Uniden Solara and you can't hear it out in the cockpit, and we need something that we can operate from the helm and or inside the boat.
Hey, we're Jenny and Rich, and our stowaway is Twitchell the Marina Cat. We've been documenting the refit of our 1977 Toyota 37 Ramble on for the past several years. I don't think there's a single part of this boat that we haven't repaired, replaced, or improved in some way. We're proud to say we've done 99.9% of the work ourselves. We've gained a lot of knowledge and experience in the process, and we're happy to pass that wisdom on.
We picked up a Garmin unit and it's got a cockpit loudspeaker, so I'm going to mount that. I got to drill a square hole, and it's basically a black box unit. So it's got the it's just got the receiver and transmitter thing. So this thing's just a black box unit, power, antenna, and then it's got up to, I think, 3 remote microphones that you can put in. And it's also connected to NMEA 2000 network, which hooks to our Vesper to get GPS signal. So it's got the handset, and then the handset has lat and long on it and other pertinent information, as well as like direct hailing. You can hail somebody from their AIS number and or whatever their MMSI number is. You got direct selective calling, and we'll have one hanging out there, one hanging in here, and I'm going to mount this box back in this little locker back here underneath the stairs out of the way. There is going to be some cabling issues. I've got to do some modifications. I've got to do some modifications to these instruments. These are our depth, speed, wind, and all that. And I picked up another multifunction display like this little Ray device over here. And plus I have to have room for an autopilot control head. So I think I'm going to put the speaker right here and the i70S and then the autopilot controller up above. So I've got to mount the Ray Marine autopilot back in the back here. So there's a lot of cabling, and in order to get all the cabling for the NMEA 2000 connection to this thing, it's got to like make one continuous loop and end up back in here and then back up to these gauges. So I don't know what it's going to look like when we're done, but we'll figure it out. I think I'm going to put the VHF unit right here. For the time being, I don't think we're going to be mounting this speaker in the cockpit just because of all the cabling constraints. It's really odd, but this tiny little short stub here is supposed to plug into the VHF unit.
Through an extension cable.
Through an extension cable. If they would have just given you 4 feet of this that fit the VHF, that'd be fine, but this one goes to the handset. So the handset and or I guess a handset extension cable. It came with one in the unit that came with the handset. The handset, the VHF black box, and the speaker all came with one way longer than you need VHF extension cable or handset extension cable. We got a second handset for outside, and it has its own cable as well. Depending on where I want to mount this near the nav station, so the speaker isn't going to work for that one, and it's not long enough to be where I want it near the helm for the exterior one. So we put the depth gauge back in, and we got the Ray Marine autopilot and the i70S. I've got to get the right size hole saw and punch a hole for the mounting plate that the handset connects to in the cockpit and at the nav here, and then route the cables accordingly. So I'm thinking about somewhere right in here, hanging this thing. So this is where I've decided to mount it. So that'll go like this. A washer and a lock ring. So this is the extension cable that goes all the way around there and up and into this locker where the VHF is installed. So that'll go there. And I can rotate this so that it's out of the way of the door. Oops. And then that'll hang right there. Like the telephone cord that always gets tangled up when you were a kid. So it's been like a freaking battle, but I've had to completely like rewire the entire CTOC system for the Ray Marine network and add in a NMEA 2000 spur to CTOC. I forget, it's an adapter cable that goes to the CTOC stuff for the Garmin. Routing everything, sort of started installing the autopilot. We've installed a couple of gauges. I've got a bunch of excess cable here, all coiled up and bundled down in the low area next to the batteries, and I'm getting close to flipping the switch and seeing if this thing works. So I just gotta push this last CTOC cable back through here and coil up the slack. And what is it?
6:47 p.m.
Okay, so 11 hours.
Almost 11.
That's not a bad Saturday project.
Okay.
Install a new VHF radio. Yeah, I thought this was going to be a little easier than it is. Alright. VHF, AIS, and instruments.
That thing might give you an error, an alarm.
It probably will when it doesn't. It won't receive signal for.
Uh-oh.
What's happening here?
Is it not in all the way?
There we go. Garmin.
We also haven't looked at the manual at all.
Set MMSI to enable DSC plus clear to accept. Oh, there you go. Well, I guess now it's time to read the instruction manual and see how to use this thing. All right, so we got the installation completed. Got the handset unit plugged in the, at the nav station. This is the one out at the helm. Yeah, still need to come up with some way to hang it on the pedestal so we can get to it easily while we're driving. But yeah, something in this vicinity right here. So just for the sake of getting the VHF radio installed and hooked into the Ray Marine network, we installed the autopilot control head and the whatever course computer down below. We don't have the rudder actuator installed yet, and that's going to be another upcoming project. Went ahead and got the multifunction display, the i70S, installed, and where we were going to put the speaker, I put the depth gauge back in for now because I don't know that we're going to need the loudspeaker out in the cockpit. And plus it was going to be another cabling nightmare in addition to the two 30-foot cords I already had to mess with on the unit. So that's about where we're at right now. So